Hi, my name is Meagan Bushey,
And I'm Mark Bushey.
and we are going to tell you a little bit about our experience with the Smeal MBA program. So, just to get started, a little bit of background about myself. I am currently working at the Home Depot as a senior financial analyst in Atlanta, Georgia. And previously, before that role, I was at IBM in a financial consulting role. And those are the two things that I've done since leaving Smeal.
And I'm currently an associate customer marketing manager with Kimberly Clark Professional, and I'm mainly working on our retail business with the Scott Shop Towel brand.
So that's what we're doing right now. And before starting at Smeal, we had some pretty different backgrounds. I was working as a financial advisor at a small financial advising firm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we worked mostly with families and small businesses to help them set a path for their financial future. And Mark was actually doing teaching, and he can tell you a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so actually I came from a very untraditional background. I did Teach for America. I was an 8th grade math and science teacher in Center City, Philadelphia. So I did that originally, and before that I did have a marketing background. I attended James Madison University, and my degree is in B2B marketing. So I had some experience through some internships in the marketing side, but really the teaching was kind of the unconventional way to get into business.
Yep. So what made us choose Smeal? Well, I know for myself it was a pretty easy decision to make. I had visited a few different schools and wasn't entirely sure if I was even planning on going back to get my MBA. But after I did a visit at Smeal, I was completely sold. There was just something about it that felt like home. The people there were very warm and welcoming and friendly. I could tell from what everyone had said that the Alumni Network was going to be very, very helpful when it came time to get a full-time job after completing the MBA program. And, just all of those little pieces felt right for me. So it was more of the touchy-feely side of things in terms of why I made my decision, but it was most definitely the right decision. And everything that I felt about the warm, welcoming family feel carried through the entire time that I was at Smeal.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. For me, it was really a sense of community, and I grew up in Pennsylvania and been a Penn State fan my whole life. And really, when you talk about 40,000 undergrad students or so, it was pretty overwhelming in terms of considering that for my undergrad. However, kind of the small, intimate program with the MBA program really kind of opened the door for me to look at Penn State again. And on top of just the community feel and the small atmosphere you have there, I think it's also, really well known for the academics. A lot of the professors we had were really top notch, and I couldn't ask for a better academic setting to go along with the nice community feel.
Yep. So we're making Smeal sound absolutely wonderful so far, but there were definitely some challenges that we had faced when we were in the program. And I think one of the biggest challenges that I faced was related to finding a full-time job at the end of my 2 years at Smeal. When I had worked at the financial advising firm after my undergrad, I was only there for a little bit over a year. So I didn't have a lot of experience in terms of number of years. And that proved to be a real challenge when I was trying to get a full-time job at the end of my 2 years. I'll talk in a minute about some of the resources that I was able to rely upon to help me get past that challenge. But that was, I think, one of the biggest challenges for me was in terms of the minimal amount of experience that I had before going to Smeal.
Yeah, and I think for me, really, it was kind of more personal. I didn't exactly know going into getting my MBA exactly what I wanted to do when I left. So that was a real challenge for me. And like Megan said, really, there were a lot of resources at Smeal to help us out and guide us through that. But really kind of just lacking for me that sense of direction. And as you kind of face your schoolwork and coursework, just really not knowing how that's going to fit into your eventual career path, I think was a challenge for me. As I got my internship and then my full-time offer, it really, everything started to click then in terms of how the curriculum was building into what I was going to do as my career. But for a couple months there, it was really, kind of difficult to see how the Smeal program really fit into my overall approach as I move forward with my career.
Yeah, and I think that probably echoes the sentiments of a lot of the people that we were in the program with. So that's definitely a good point to note. But now, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about some of the resources that made some of those challenges a little bit easier to get through. So, like I mentioned, my greatest challenge was the few number of years of experience that I had prior to going back to get my MBA. And the first area that was a problem in was finding a full-time job. And I have to say that our career services team in 220 did a fantastic job just prepping everyone with resumes and interview practice. And as much as you think you know how to craft a proper resume and you think you're a great interviewer, you're really probably not in their eyes. And it's great to have a different perspective and a new set of eyes to give you, so many helpful hints and tips that really can prove helpful as you're going through the career search process. And along those same lines, I was also able to leverage quite a bit the alumni network in finding my full-time role. So I was able to leverage our alumni advisory board, and it was actually one of the members on the advisory board that got me set up with my first interview at IBM and eventually led to my full-time job offer coming out of school. And then the third resource that I think, I don't think I realized that I was leveraging it at the time, but now I definitely realize that I was just all of the classmates that were at Smeal with me. They all had such a diverse background and have seen a lot more things than I had in their career, and they were able to provide me some great advice in terms of where I should be searching and how I should be approaching different companies in ways that I had never considered myself. So I know those are three things. They're three huge things, and if I thought more about it, I could list many more, but those are definitely some resources that helped me overcome my challenges that I faced at Smeal.
Yeah, and I would echo pretty much everything that Meagan just said. And really, the last part, the community, really, Smeal has a reputation of being, a really tight-knit community. And really, it's not the competitive MBA environment that a lot of times, MBA programs have. When you do get a job offer, even if you're competing, quote unquote, with your classmates, everyone's kind of happy for you, really excited that you have a new opportunity coming. I think that was really important and really encouraging as you're looking for those new opportunities. In terms of other resources, again, I think professors are a tremendous asset, and really they are some of the most accessible people that I've ever come across in an academic setting. They're always willing to help. They understand if you if you need to miss class to go to a job interview. Really, I think they understand and have their priorities in great order. So that's another tremendous resource above and beyond what Meagan mentioned earlier.
Yep. So in terms of the offer process, getting into Smeal, I'm sure that's something that most of you are very curious about. My process, I think, was pretty normal, run-of-the-mill. I had done, a visit to the school just to get a feel for it, see if I liked it. Submitted the normal application. I think it was probably for the early admission. I don't remember at this point. After I had taken my GMAT, and I believe I actually heard back right before Christmas time, I think, with a yes decision, which was great. And then the key factor actually in me making my decision to attend Smeal was going to MBA for a day and visitation weekend, which really gave me a great feel for, what the program was like, who the people were that I would be, working with, whether we're talking professors or administrative people or even classmates. And I think after the visitation weekend and MBA for a day and everything like that, I had a really good feeling that this was the right step for me. So my application and admission process was relatively simple and run-of-the-mill, but I don't know, Mark, if you have any different stories to add there.
Yeah, no, actually mine was probably a lot more basic than that. As I was teaching in Philadelphia, I didn't really have a lot of flexibility with my schedule to come to MBA for a day and other things of that sort. So really upon, the initial kind of paper, quote unquote, application, and then the in-person interview, once I, just learned I got into Penn State, I was pretty much sold. I knew that was the place for me. And upon visiting the school and meeting and interviewing with the staff, it really sold me even further. So that was really kind of the more simplistic process for me.
So now that we're done, there are a lot of great things that we could say about Smeal, but I'm sure most of you are curious about, how do we feel it's impacted our careers, our lives? What did we get out of the MBA program? And I think that there's a couple things for me that I got out of being at Smeal. The first, obviously, it is just having that title on your resume. It's something that's really attractive to companies as you get into the business world, and it makes it a lot easier in certain respects to find jobs going forward. In addition to that obvious factor, there's also the other factor of salary. You'll hear this tossed around a lot, and we're not going to go into numbers or anything, but we both saw significant increases from where we were previously. So that's obviously something that people are concerned about when they're going back for their MBA. But I think that the third thing, and again, this is more on the softer side, but the third thing that has come as a result of me being at Smeal is that I've kind of become a more confident person in the business world. I just have a better feel for, how I need to handle certain situations. I'm much more comfortable as a public speaker. So as a person, I feel like I've grown in ways that I never really expected I would in an MBA program. I think I had expected a lot of, number crunching and learning, different formulas or anything like that. But what I got out of the program was a lot more on the soft side, and it helped me grow into, a better business person.
Yeah, and I think for me, again, it really goes back to kind of that community feel. And currently in my current role, I sit next to a Penn Stater. My boss is a Penn Stater. There's a Penn Stater right across for me. So, it's really that community, and we all can share common professors, common experiences, and really, just that and being able to talk about that is really important. As I look for future roles, I think, the combination of the Smeal experience plus some of the jobs that my Smeal education has allowed me to achieve, I think those will look favorable going forward. So really, everything that I can say about the program, the business school in general, it has been very, very positive, and I would recommend to anyone to really think seriously about attending there. It might not be the best fit for absolutely everyone, but it is a tremendous place, and I don't think we could have hoped for anything better. And I guess the other last thing is I never expected to find there was my wife here, which I never, like I said, ever expected to find. But yeah, we've been married for 6 months or so. She's going to slap me for not knowing. But yeah, no, everything has been tremendous, and really, I think we owe a lot to our life together and our careers now to Penn State and the program and all the great people there.
Yep, and I echo everything. You're right-ish on the 6 months. But, like Mark said, we would really encourage you to think very, heavily, that's the wrong word, think, in depth about where you want to go for your MBA. But you need to make sure it's the right fit for you. And I think it was pretty obvious for both of us. So if you have a chance to get to Penn State and do a visit, even if it's just for a day or a couple of hours, I think that will give you a really good feel about the decision that you're making. That being said, I would highly recommend the Smeal MBA program to anyone and everyone. We have had, an amazing experience, and we hope to continue to stay involved in the program and Penn State, and maybe we'll see you around sometime if we're back at Smeal. So thanks, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to talk to anyone in 220. They can put you in touch with us, and we'd be happy to help out.
We are.
Penn State!